Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Split Second, and today with me I have the wonderful Summerfree.
Hello.
He's going to be talking to us about his deck that he calls Fancy Mathematics. Would you care to walk it through it with us?
Alright, so Fancy Mathematics is a deck I designed based around revolving around white and orange friends, well, that white and orange colors in the MLP CCC card game. The main that I chose to use for this is Rarity Dressmaker. Now, I've tried building this deck around other mains for both orange and white. However, this is by far my favorite to use.
Why is that?
She's very explosive when it comes to her ability, and having a passive inspired is actually a very good thing to prevent your opponent from drawing very good cards.
But couldn't you use the other rarity to slow down your opponent?
Alright, so I theorized this around a stall mechanic. However, having a stall mechanic is pretty much outdated when it comes to Canterlot Knights. Both blue and yellow just get around your taxes, and yellow's main just pays 1 to move to a problem with a critter. That gets past your +1, +2 to move there instantly. Blue already had from last generation, Spitfire, Wildfire. Sorry, not Spitfire. Wildfire, Holly Dash.
Yeah, I was going to say, if there's a Spitfire card, I definitely want it.
Sorry. Wildfire, Holly Dash. This generation they got Bulk Biceps, aka Snowflake.
We also have Rumble.
And yeah, the smaller version of that is Rumble. So a lot of free movement in this generation. Taxes really doesn't stand a chance anymore because your opponent just gets around it too fast. So the logical choice for this is actually Dressmaker, having the +2 power to anything that gets equipped this turn. On your side to fill any of your friends, combined with some effects from your orange friends, actually is enough to confront a lot of the problems that you play and a lot of your problems your opponent plays.
So now you've called it Fancy Mathematics. Why Fancy Mathematics? I mean, there's no particular fancy pants or anything like that, and there doesn't seem to be much maths involved. So what's with the name?
There actually quite is a bit of maths involved. You need to know how much action tokens you need to confront both problems. This deck is designed to go into double face-offs, and while your opponent is not ready. So basically, you want to be confronting both problems while your opponent is only confronting one or not even confronting any. There's actually a lot of economy with this deck. I've once confronted both sides, both 3-pointed problems. My side being 4 my color, 3 off color. My opponent being the 8 wild color, with 10 action tokens, and that not the best example of how economic this deck is. If my opponent has a weaker problem, if I have a weaker problem, let's say I have a 2-2 for 2 points or a 3-2 for 2 points, and my opponent has a 3-point problem, again being 8 wild, I can do that with about 5 to 6 action tokens.
Okay, that sounds fair enough.
So, Rarity Dressmaker, a bit of information about her. So she's the +2 power to any friend that is a resources played onto, any of your friends that have resources played onto. Again, the skill is essentially the engine for the deck. Again, you can play this with other colors, but this makes it a bit more explosive. So the resources I choose to use alongside with that ability is Marble Chapeau, Combat Hat, and Hard Hat. Now there are other equipments that
such
you
as
can use.
Chic Beret, I assume you're talking about, of course.
Yes, Chic Beret, I did originally have it in my deck. However, having a 3-cost resource is generally expensive because you're not putting for 3 action tokens and only getting 1 power is, well, a bit of a waste. You can get 3 potential power using Rarity's ability, but drops by 2 at the end of the turn. By the end of the turn. So
yeah, but you also get white, and that can help you.
This actually mostly focuses around orange's shenanigans more than white shenanigans. So I do need more orange. So white is not very important. I've actually tried to think of this deck to be tricolor and very minimal white.
Tricolor. Now that's interesting. What's the third color then? Would that be your one pink in the deck?
Yes, pink. So pink has actually a very nice, easy resource to equip in the lines of Rubber Chicken. It's the one cost that gives you +2 to Troublemaker face-offs. It's actually one cost and one requirement, so it's a very cheap way to flip rarity. It's probably one of the weaker pink resources in terms of equipment. However, having rarity on the field gives it the +2 power to the end of the turn, which is very useful. Combine that with pink has a lot of entry cards that actually do have a ability. In Flitter has the +1 during Troublemaker face-offs, so combined with Rubber Chicken, she's by herself at 4 power when she fights any Troublemaker.
However, I see that you've chosen to pick Lily over Flitter, which is interesting because Lily's ability basically means that you retire a friend to get its power until the end of turn. Why did you choose that?
So this actually combos well with my whole plan of getting a lot of power for very minimal action tokens. Now, the theory behind Lily is I can use another resource in my deck, Viddlestans. Viddlestan, which is the orange 2 cost 2 power. Its ability is to exhaust a friend and give its power to another character. Or exhaust the character and give its power to another character. This is actually one of the key factors in my deck. It's one of my favorite cards in the game, purely because I can achieve so much power for practically nothing. And yes, blue have the free movement, but blue actually requires a bit more of a field setup to get your Congo line running, whereas this one can actually start pretty fast. When you get Viddlestans in the field, let's say after the first double face-off, rarity's at home, you want to confront a problem. You play Viddlestans, and you play a friend, and you just exhaust rarity to give her power to a friend. And let's say it's a 1 power friend on your opponent's problem has 4 wild, 1 + 3 from rarity can instantly solve that. And again, with the key factor of this deck is you want to be solving problems, but on your opponent's turn, you don't want to be confronting those problems.
So I see that basically you're using that to try and get around cards such as Spring Forward. That's quite interesting, I think.
Okay, so Spring Forward is generally one of the harder cards to play around in most decks, especially with a lot of free movement decks, considering you're using a lot of friends and characters to confront problems. Spring Forward's grown, I think the highest I've seen a Spring Forward is probably about 12 power, or roughly around
Try
there.
20.
That's with the games I've used her. I'm not quite sure how powerful you've gotten yours.
I think it was about 20, 24.
2024.
Yeah, yellow loves it loves yellow.
Yeah, so Spring Forward can really feed off free movement. The design for this deck is I want to steal the bonus, and then I don't want any retaliation from my opponent. So, especially for my opponent's problems, is the easiest to do. I can combine both Rarity's ability and Viddlestans to get to the. Let's say I need 8. 8 seems to be the general number to get 3 points. There are some 9 wilds out there, but I can easily get to that. I can easily get to that. I steal the problem, then I downgrade myself back to underneath the confront, so my opponent doesn't have the ability to face off against me to get those bonus points. They will instead have to go to my problem, which usually has the lower of the 2 bonuses on the field. My problem deck actually consists of 4 1 bonuses, 4 2 bonuses, and 2 3 bonuses. Now the reason I kept the 3 bonus around is my deck tends to burn out. As in, the later I go into the game, the less explosive I get, unless I get my Viddlestans on the field. I have cards to help me dig for Vital Stands. I have Applejack Farm Formare, which it's costed, stubborn, and sets my top 5 cards for a resource to add to my hand.
Now, let's actually talk about that for a bit, because there was a thing going around a while ago where a lot of people were saying that Applejack Farm Formare, while it's the best orange card so far, it doesn't really do much, and it won't see much play, especially since you have to build a deck around it. Now, I see you've sort of found a way to get the rarity that not many people like and the Applejack that not many people like, and somehow get them to work together.
Alright, so both Farm Formare and Applejack obviously revolve around resources. Now, getting to the work together, I actually planned this deck with Farm Formare completely out of it. I constructed this deck long before the release of Farm Formare, and I actually used Applejack Barn Raiser in its place. Again, the deck was meant to be revolving around temporary energy, or temporary power to begin with. So what do you mean getting to work together?
Well, somehow you've managed to find some sort of synergy between the two cards. For example, you're using Applejack to dig for resources, and then you attaching those resources to a character and getting them to power up thanks to Rarity's ability. That doesn't seem to be something that many people have thought of. So
Well,
I just think that's an interesting way of doing it. Utilizing two underappreciated cards and somehow managed to find a nice, neat little combo that people can appreciate.
Well, and thank you for that. So I actually did the procedure list. Yeah, so I actually wanted to play with Applejack. Applejack's my favorite pony. I really wanted to do tribute to her with building her a really nice deck.
That's you enjoy some of the background ponies.
Yes, I love the background ponies. Moving on. Unfortunately, as amazing as Applejack is, her main abilities are lackluster at best. However, as a secondary color, she really shines through. So alongside of being a very resourceful character with Farm Formare, you actually have a very, very good entry 1/1 that actually combos well with Rarity's ability. You have Cherry Jubilee.
Now that's the trial deck only exclusive.
Yes, so it is a fixed card, and you only got 2 in a trial deck. However, me being the Applejack fan that I am, I actually have 2 playsets of Cherry Jubilee. Yeah,
that sounds like you.
Yeah, I love Applejack. I'm just gonna put that out there now.
Oh, really? We totally hadn't guessed.
Okay, so Cherry Jubilee can solo a 5 wild opponent's problem with 2 by herself and 1 equipment. Now, you must be thinking I really suck at math because 1 + 1 + 2 does not equal 5. However, Marvelous Chapeau actually decreases that 5 to be a 4. So she can single-handedly steal a problem with just 2 action tokens, which is very economic for the deck.
I see. So you're applying a little bit of fancy mathematics right there. That's I like that. That's interesting. Now you've also got Sapphire Shores. Now, how does she work?
Okay. So the white cards in my deck are just to help Rarity flip. Now, all the resources in terms of white that I play actually require 2 white. So if Rarity is in base form, I actually need a sidekick for her to flip. Sapphire Source is just there to be there. I have the 2 white power necessary to play my equipments. She also has a very interesting ability how she can actually retire a resource, accessory. Sorry, not just a plain simple resource. It has to be an accessory, and I can actually play on an accessory on her for free. Now, let's say I have her with a resource go to my friend's problem, and I have a few action tokens short to actually get to the confront power. However, if I do have more accessories in my hand, I can just play her on her for free, get the +2 power from rarity, and actually build up to the power I need if I can.
I see. So constantly retiring and playing accessories to keep buffing her using Rarity's ability.
Alright, so
I like that.
accessories in the way the deck is built are just essentially a touch of refinement. That's how I view them. The added bonus of the combat hat, the hard hat, and the marvelous chapeau are there as a bonus. If you keep them, yes. If you lose them, it's not the end of the world because your deck does not revolve around them. It revolves around the power that you already got.
Now, I'm probably going to ask a question that a lot of people are thinking about. Why aren't you running Rarity Truly Outrageous?
Rarity Truly Outrageous? What is this card you speak of?
Why, I do believe it's a card. So why aren't you running it in your deck? It just seems a bit like you could remove something like Pearly Stitch or even Primposy and constantly gain AT.
Alright, so yes, Rarity Truly Outrageous. Her effect to confront a problem, then run home and score the bonus. It is a very expensive card. It actually only owned one playset, and that actually belongs to another deck. And to be honest, there's a lot of controversy about that card. People want to get banned. People complaining that they should not be banned, and it's something that really shouldn't be discussing on a deck check. I prefer, if I had the spare cards, I probably would be using it in this deck.
So what you're saying is the reason you're not running it isn't because you don't want to, but more sort of because you don't really have access to it.
Well, it's a really hard thing to discuss my feelings towards that card without annoying half the populace that play this game. Let's just say that I would run it if I had access to it in a high level tournaments. In low level tournaments and store tournaments where I'm just there to have fun, this deck has enough mechanics for me to play around and put a smile on my face without actually having to result in a very cheap card. Not actually saying that she's a very cheap card, she's actually pretty expensive.
Oh, I see what you're saying. And a lot of your problems are based around just stalling, is it?
Okay, so I actually didn't really explain my events yet. So, okay, so
I think your events basically speak for themselves. You've got standard standstill, which prevents movement, and you've even got plum tuck it out, which is a nice one.
Yeah, so if you got standstill, you don't need to explain how standstill work. It costs your opponent. It essentially taxes your opponent 2 action tokens, for free, which is plus in anyone's books. Plum tuck it out has to be played very strategically. It's not as easy as people think it is, and it's not as hard as people think it is. So some people think it is. You need to find the right way to play it. This is how I actually do use it in my deck. Now, I've had a game against many people, like I versed you for one, where you've attempted to confront a problem, and I've actually used plum tuck it out to the point where you couldn't confront that problem, which I in turn, when my turn started, I would just rush that problem and steal the bonus. Now, reason for that is playing cards on problems that you don't want to play cards on, it costs you a lot of action tokens, and having a slip up at the very last second not only costs you the action tokens you had to play that card, but anything prior you've done to confront that problem. So this thing can actually tax your opponent's hefty amount of action tokens if played properly.
Alright. Sounds good. So essentially what you have here is you've got an explosive power deck, so you keep giving powers to everyone, and in the meantime you're just stalling. Alright. Well, thanks for dropping by, and I hope to speak to you again soon. And if it's okay with you, we'll just chuck the deck list up in the description there. So thanks.
That's totally fine.
And
people can just hack at this deck if they want.
Yep, sure. Great, thanks. So, see you around.
Bye.